You are watching TGZ TV.
Welcome to Industry, the latest edition of TGZ TV shows where we delve into the underbelly of the entertainment industry and strip it down to the core. Over the next coming weeks, we are going to be speaking to a number of amazing public figures and entertainers as well as celebrities who are going to be giving us an insight onto the industry as a whole and telling us about their journey within the industry.
Ntukza, formerly one-third of popular South African hip-hop group TEARGAS, shot to fame with his group mates cementing themselves as a force to reckon with within the African hip-hop movement. And at the height of their fame, it all went tumbling down as the group disbanded, went their own separate ways amidst rumors of disagreements within the group. Today, Ntukza runs his own record label, Afribiz Entertainment, and talks to us about his journey through the industry.
Thank you very much. Wow, what an intro. Hey, man.
Thank you.
It's been a while since I got an intro like this. 2022 is kicking off really nicely there.
Welcome to the show, Ntukza. I am so excited and delighted to have you as our first guest. You are literally the first guest in our new series. How do you feel about that? I'm excited.
Wow. I don't know how to feel. I mean, I think this is just a blessing, just the fact that I'm the one that's kicking it off, you know.
You are
just based off that alone, you know, you guys are just you're climbing right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate that. And so obviously in Ntukza industry, we're going to be literally talking about the industry and delving into the nitty-gritty of the industry. And we're going to start with your time with TEARGAS. You know, that's when the world was basically introduced to you. When you were part of TEARGAS, everybody was talking about TEARGAS. Everybody wanted to be collaborating with TEARGAS. You know, TEARGAS was everywhere, including being nominated for the BET Awards. If I'm not mistaken, did you win that one as well, international?
It was just a nomination, that one. I think that year, D'banj won it.
D'banj, of course. You were kind of parallel at that time, actually, isn't it?
Yes,
in terms of popularity and everybody kind of talking about you.
Okay. Yes, exactly. So, and yeah, it was a great experience, that, and just also being able to be in under the same roof as, you know, D'banj and D-Black from Ghana. It was quite a very nice, you know, very chilled experience.
I can imagine. And what I would like to know is, obviously, when you started the group TEARGAS, who were the founders and how did you end up forming the group? Because I know, obviously, at this day and age where we are right now, there's a lot of manufactured groups. But I also know that in the past, a lot of groups that did come together, it was almost like a natural, you know, thing that happened where it was a bunch of friends that happened to be very talented and they decided to get together and form a group. How did it happen for you guys?
Well, for TEARGAS, how it actually happened is that we all met at varsity. But I don't know if people that are watching may know that I also have a biological brother in the group, Mai. He's the older brother. He's the oldest to me. So we basically already had something going before I actually joined them, both of them at varsity. Because I was to actually attend at the same varsity as KO and my brother. I think like about 2 years before we actually started a group and like officially met. So it was just a thing where myself and my brother Mai, we used to just, we just had like this genuine love for hip hop and music in general, because we grew up from a family, you know, of music. Not necessarily musicians, but we grew up, you know, in a family where there was like people that used to love music in my family. So we just, you know, got onto that whole thing. And then we started also just, you know, changing a direction also later, which was hip hop, because hip hop got introduced to SA literally like late 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, you got a whole brother? I had no idea there was a whole brother as part of the group. That's quite interesting.
You see, that's why I was actually saying, I don't know if people may know this, but
No,
it's actually been on almost most of the interviews that we've done. So, but I know that, you know, people will miss that a lot. So.
Right. People don't really always pay that much attention. I think that is actually quite interesting. So obviously you managed to form the group TEARGAS. When did you guys end up getting signed? Like, how long did it take for you guys? Were you doing like shows at schools, you know, performing in front of friends on the streets and things like that? You know, how did it transition from you guys being just like, you know, putting your music together and having fun with it to actually getting the business side of it and having a record label involved?
That's a very interesting question. But what actually happened is, while we were still at varsity, you know, there used to be radio stations which used to really back hip hop at the time. This was now like early 2000s when literally we started, you know, becoming friends, like early 2000 that was. So there were radio stations, like some community, some major, you know, like broadcasters, like, you know, your SABC that already like had like some shows that were actually dedicated to the upcoming hip hop artists and whatever. And we happened to one time be featured on this radio show. It was a hip hop radio show. So we took a train. It was like a whole 2-hour ride from varsity to the radio station. The varsity was all the way outside of Johannesburg, like deep down south of Johannesburg. So we had to take that train. And but this was just me and my E at the time. And we got on the radio and we actually freestyled on this show and we got votes. Like, it was a show where there's votes at the end. And we happened to win this particular contest that night. And KO happened to actually be hearing us over the radio, myself and my brother. And I was not at the varsity at the time. KO happened to have been listening over the radio, and there was also like a little like a campus radio at the varsity there, which my brother Mai had friends at who actually used to be DJs there. So Mai had friends there. So KO went all the way from where he was around the campus looking for any of the DJs that actually worked at this campus radio to find out if they know of my E. Yeah. And because my E actually at the end of the show, we were given an opportunity to shout out anybody that knows us. And then my E happened to shout out, you know, people at the station. So that's how actually KO actually found out about where and how he could actually find my E. And initially we met up and we clicked. And we were the rappers of the like, I mean, at the time, hip hop was not that popular. Like around here in SA, the music that was popular was like Kwaito music and house music.
Pantula and all that.
Yeah, and house music. So hip hop, like, you know, it was really like a new, it was just like new ground for the industry. So we actually clicked from then and we were freestyling around the campus. We ended up getting invitations from people that were actually coming to the station to do their business, and there had things happening. They invited us to their little shows, little promos, and literally that's basically how, you know, the influence that we had, you know, started growing in drips and drabs until just towards the end of varsity around 2003, 2004. We left varsity, and but before we left varsity, the name TEARGAS had not actually come to be. It actually was formed after varsity, and yes. So basically, it was just me and my E. And when KO later joined, that's when, you know, we started looking for a new name. We had older names, which I may not mention now. I mean, and then we changed from those names. I remember the name that we used to go by before we were TEARGAS was like 99.
99. Why?
Yes.
Why 99?
99. It's like a slang here in South Africa.
Okay.
99 is like for real, for real.
Oh.
Yes, when you
And
say
so-
99, it's like it's happening for
It's like
real.
it's happening. We're here. Like
It's gonna
we
happen.
are 99.
99 is like it's inevitable that it's gonna happen. So
Ah,
I remember we even had like a logo with like dice, you know, like a pair of dice with the
yeah.
nines and everything. We played
Yeah.
with the whole concept of the dice and everything. The TEARGAS name was formed. I remember one night I was with my E, and then you know, at night, just before you doze off for your sleep, and then we just busy thinking. I think at the time we were busy looking for the name because we had just been introduced to our first record label at the
Right.
time, Electro Mode, where we were to release our first album.
Mhm.
So we came up with the name. I actually came up with the name myself. You know, I just threw it out there, and I was like, we actually had been juggling names around, throwing names around, but I came up with that name that night, and everybody agreed, and they thought because of the struggle that we faced and whatever, you know, that involved tear gas back then, you know, with apartheid and everything. So they thought, you know, it would be a striking name, and that's basically how it came up. And then we later, or rather at that particular time, we actually had been stalked. We were stalked by this lady from Electro Mode. She had actually...
Wait, she was stalking you?
She was kind of stalking us because we did like some shows, right? We like these shows that I'm speaking about where we were just developing, like doing shows there. And then I remember we even did shows at like shopping malls. Like we did shops, we did like shows at like places that you wouldn't really imagine people to do shows at. But this sister was actually, you know, checking us out, and she got in contact with the guy that managed us at the time.
Yeah.
To say that she was very interested and keen in getting us signed to Electro Mode. And at the time, I think she was assigned to, she was like an A&R, this lady.
Right, yeah.
So she was assigned to do, at the record label, they assigned her to take up like a little project where they were doing a compilation for like hip hop artists. It's like because hip hop was a new thing also for the label. Mind you, we actually were the first group or first artists that were hip hop in that label.
Oh, wow.
Or even in South Africa, we were the first. Okay, there was Squatter Camp and whatever. I'll just keep it at my record label. So, you know, she actually, we recorded about a few songs. She wanted to find out what other songs we have because we had been performing quite a couple of songs that she liked. And she listened to the songs that we had done, and then she was very interested in this one particular song, which actually we broke into the market with, which is Another Chance. So she heard the song and thought that this is, you know, the best mood and, you know, the best vibe for the project, the compilation project that she was assigned to do. And voila, I mean, she got us introduced to the label boss and to the label mates at the time. There was TKZ, but they were also leaving the label. Your Cabelos and, you know, your Zwais, they were there. And we basically, you know, were friends of the people at the label until we ended up, we actually ended up finishing our first major CD, which was Kubilek Bovu as TEARGAS, put it out in 2006 and just blew the airwaves everywhere and just blew up TV screens everywhere. Yeah.
That is actually quite an amazing story. Honestly, it's quite an amazing journey. And I think a lot of people don't know about what artists have to endure, the journey they have to go through in order to even make it. But just a quick question, what was the time frame between obviously the time you guys did the stint on the radio and then KO came to find you, and then obviously the woman who was stalking you, quote unquote, the A&R who was kind of like obviously looking at you as potential artists to sign to the label? What was the time frame between that happening and the time you actually ended up getting signed to the label?
I'd say there was like just around like less than a year.
Less than a year.
We
Also,
actually,
you were one of the fortunate ones.
Yes, that we actually signed on the dotted line, you know. And we ended up being inserted into the company. It wasn't necessarily that much of a long time, you know, between us meeting and us putting out that CD that was so mind-blowing to so many people, so motivating to so many people who had actually lost all hope in terms of just socially. You know, we brought in a whole different climate and a whole different kind of aspect of the music, because at the time it was just all about let's dance. It was fun, just like right now with Amapiano. It was actually just like this at the time when we came in. And, you know, we brought in some slow jams, rapping on a slow jam where actually you are conveying a certain message. And, you know, it was just a new thing. So, yeah, basically it didn't take us that much time.
So in terms of, obviously, because it took you guys a space of a year, what would you say to artists out there who will look at that and think, you see, even I can make in a year, but forgetting the fact that the industry is very different, like, you know, as opposed to the way it was before, in the sense that it's a lot more saturated, you know, so which means record labels and companies, and, you know, let's bear in mind, let's put in the recession that happened in 2009, which affected the entire world. It's affected the way companies want to invest. And it's also because of the oversaturation with social media as well right now. What would you say to artists who actually think that, oh, if Ntukza and TEARGAS were signed within a year, I can do it as well? What advice would you give them in terms of the realities of what to expect in today's market?
You know, I think things work out differently for everyone. You know, things won't work out the same for me. They won't work. If things can work out for me, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll work out for everyone else. And also, just, you know, to add to the fact that, like, it was a year that we were signed between us meeting with KO. We actually had put in a lot of years before getting signed. And we developed a mentality while we were still, you know, and actually that mentality that we developed, that I'm going to speak of, we developed it towards the release of the album. What we actually did, which I can also, you know, give out there as advice, what we did after all those years of sharpening the skills, and, you know, right now I'm a freestyle god, but, you know, it takes a very, very long time of practice and a very, very long time of sharpening your skill and making sure that you practice. So the mentality that we developed was that we were going to rehearse the songs before we record them. So it took us maybe about, let's say, about a whole year of recording, and then the year between us recording and signing. So what we did on every song that we were recording, because also you have to consider the fact that, you know, studio time is very expensive. They give you, those days they gave you just like an hour to record. Like, this was now a professional studio that we were not used to before, when we used to record demos. When we recorded our first album, what we had told ourselves at the time was that we're not recording demos anymore, because we had done the demo stage and we had gone past that stage of recording demos, because a demo is just like you are demonstrating. What we were doing at the time was a project. We told ourselves that we were going to do a whole project, because also at the time we were funding ourselves from 9-to-5s. Just after we finished varsity, we got 9-to-5s. Luckily, all of us, we got 9-to-5s. And with those 9-to-5, that's why education is so important for artists. With those 9-to-5s, we are able to say, okay, because we used to ask for demo money from our parents. So after we got 9-to-5s, we said we're not going to do demos no more. Now we are doing a project. The very project that, you know, the lady that actually got us signed actually heard some of the work that we had actually started on that project.
That is actually quite amazing. And I like the fact that you've made it clear that you actually had jobs. You know what I mean? You didn't put your nose up at.
There's no easy way out, you know.
You know,
because the thing is, you know, young kids these days, they see music as an easy way out. So
it's not.
You know what I'm saying to you about, you know, the fact that, you know, it took us time. You know, it was just a year between us recording the project and saying that we're not doing a demo to being signed. But, you know, given a huge trunk of a tree, you know, you rather take time sharpening your axe that once you start chopping down the tree, you don't spend so long chopping down the tree. Instead of using a blunt axe where you're gonna be trying to chop down this large trunk of a tree where it's not gonna actually happen. So we used a long time of practice and a long time of rehearsing every song. That when we went into the studio to record those songs, it took us one day for all the songs.
Less money being spent as well. So any money that they were giving you that you had to recoup, you were not overdoing it, you know, you were not overusing it. Because there's also this misconception about advances and how they work. They think, oh my gosh, I'm rich. No, that's a loan.
You have to recoup that money.
You have to recoup that money. The record label will want that money back in some way, shape, or form, through sales, through the gigs that you take. You know, that's why the contracts are important for you to understand them, you know. But I just want to go back a little bit. You know, obviously you mentioned KO was kind of like trying to find you guys, right, through the radio stations that you started at, etc. What was he doing at the time for him to have heard you guys and then decide to seek you out?
He also, in his own right, had been, had been part of the culture of hip hop from the province where he grew up, in Mpumalanga province. Right. That is all the way in the west of Gauteng here in South Africa. So he had actually, also, been following the culture, and he actually, when we met him, we could actually feel, and we got a sense that he actually had been part of the hip hop culture for a while, because the language that he spoke was the one that we also spoke.
That you spoke.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's very interesting. So which leads me to us now fast forwarding, obviously, to the success of TEARGAS, and then ultimately what ended up accumulating to you guys going your separate ways. Okay.
Yes.
So before you got to that, how many albums do you receive and how many awards did you receive at your prime?
It was quite a number of them, I'm obviously not going to remember all of them right now, but I mean, we got one for a song that I produced in Shobowami out in Nigeria at Sound City Awards there. We went on to get like about 2 to 3 at Channel O, and we got an award. We got summer, maybe we got like 2 summers, and we got about 5 metros. So it was quite a number of them.
Oh wow, that's quite amazing. So obviously you guys had an amazing success, you had everybody talking about you, and that's how you managed to kind of pretty much put a stamp into the industry, but also into the South African hip hop industry. And then all of a sudden people did not hear from you guys anymore. They didn't know what happened, What exactly, can you give us some details on exactly what happened? What caused the group to decide to go their separate ways? And in addition to that, I would more so like to know how the industry, and by industry, I'm not talking about the fans, I'm talking about the actual industry, the labels, how they handled that sort of situation. Because something I noticed is a pattern is that whenever groups disband, you find that maybe only one person is still elevated by the same label, most likely, or another record label will pick them up, but they tend to not pay much attention to the other members, and they are left to kind of like fend for themselves, you know what I mean? After receiving all that backing, and it's like all of a sudden it all stops. So I'd like to know what happened with TEARGAS for you guys to go your separate ways, but also how did the industry handle that situation? And did you feel you were taken care of? And by that, I don't mean necessarily being spoiled, taken care of, but taken care of in the sense that to say, hey, what can we do to elevate you as an individual for your career?
It's quite an unfortunate thing that, a lot of upcoming musicians think it's all rosy when when you are an artist that is taken serious in the music industry, and that comes in and just shakes things up in the music industry, and you just hit the top with all the songs and everything. And then I think it's, it's like a downhill. It's not a downhill at all. And I actually felt the pinch after the breakup of the group. And I feel like, when you are a musician, you have to not just, think about what's happening at the moment. You have to have a vision, for yourself. Even when you're in a group, you have to have your own backup system,
right,
to say that this is basically, if anything fails, this is my backup. This is what I'm gonna turn back to. So for me, that was education number one.
Right.
That I had already had in the bag, or that I had under my sleeves, to say, if anything goes haywire, this is what I'm gonna do. When things started turning sour, I think it was around 2012.
Right.
And that's the very year we released our last album.
Oh wow! Was it numero 8? Is it number 8? Number 8 somewhere there? Then the last album.
Number 4.
No, then the title of the album.
Number.
Okay, I know for some reason I always pronounce it as number 8 because you put the 8 at the number. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I always used to pronounce it as number 8. For some reason.
We are going right back to school now. And it's the beginning of the year, so it's fine.
Oh, it's fine.
So that's the period, where things started, feeling uneasy in the group, that's when you actually started feeling that, this really, it's just happening for the sake of the fans. Right. It's just happening for the sake of, for the people out there. But
right.
I mean, behind closed doors, things aren't really as they seem,
They seem, yeah.
And in 2012, when, those negative vibes started happening, I was actually feeling like, for me, I have to look out for me, mind you, this was also a period where KO and my E were starting to solidify the Cash Time brand,
right?
Which I was not a part of. However, I was I was involved with the whole Cash Time situation when before we even came out as TEARGAS. The Cash Time thing was already happening, and this is something people may not know. But we actually used to have that Cash Time thing happening on the side, which I wasn't a part of, like I said. However, for me, later on in life, I realized, and this was just me having an introspection. Like, this was just me conversating with myself years later, why things happened the way they did.
Right.
At the time when we had, started, now leaving our 9-to-5s and starting to take this TEARGAS thing serious, I was the only one still with the 9-to-5 at the time, and they left their jobs because my job was more career driven.
Right.
Like, I was teaching. I was I'm an academic, so I was teaching at the time. I was teaching art and graphic design.
Amazing.
Yes. So they didn't necessarily have anything at the time. They literally had TEARGAS as bread and butter.
Oh.
For everything, and there was also this on the side, which was Cash Time. At the time, it was Cash Time magazine. It was a Cash Time magazine. So I don't know if you remember the culture of DVDs in America. Actually, the culture of DVDs was the culture that kicked off careers like Nicki Minaj and Young Jeezy, like a lot of rappers in the South, rappers like UGK, Bun B, and that other guy that passed on, peace to the dead. So those were the days, and we thought that it could be fitting for us to also just introduce this whole magazine thing, but it was more like an audio magazine. It was like a DVD magazine that we actually the plan was to put it out literally every single month. But the TEARGAS calling was just too strong that it was not so easy to juggle between the two. So, but I still had the teaching situation because at the time, I was the only one with a kid at the time in the group. I was not about to watch, you know, the whole situation unfold where we are struggling to get shows, because at the time it wasn't easy to get shows, also because we were just kicking off our careers.
Right.
So I felt I'm feeling as if it wasn't rubbing so nicely, you know, with, I don't know, either with my brother or with KO, because also, I mean, they were friends before I even went to varsity. So
right.
And also the same goes with me and KO. We also became friends when my brother left varsity, because it was me and KO that were left behind. So I spent a lot of time with KO at the time, such that on the first TEARGAS album, there's a song called Hold Up that it's only me and KO that were part of that song, because my E wasn't there at the time.
Right.
So yeah, it's something, you know, that I feel like, you know, years later, I feel as if, you know, maybe it wasn't really sitting nicely that I got a salary every month, and they only expecting income from something that is really not really happening, which is a magazine, which is like a whole new market in the country, and it's like hip hop. I mean, who wants to be listening to hip hop and checking out hip hop DVDs at the time when there's so much happening in the Kwaito industry, like now with Amapiano? Nobody wants to really focus on what's happening on the hip hop scene. Yeah, you know, maybe it happened because of that, you know, the fact that I was a little bit more stable. But I don't know, as you may know, in Africa, teaching is not really like, you know, it's not really something where you can even have jealousy over somebody having a job as a teacher. So, but I nonetheless was, you know, part of the projects that TEARGAS did, like the magazine, the DVD. I was there as, you know, part of the team. I wasn't there complaining to say, oh no, but why am I not getting a percentage out of this? I actually hustled, and I worked my way with the brand. Until towards the last album in 2012, Number, where I felt as if, I mean, I've been working on the DVD and the cash time thing since like freaking 2004, 2005.
Oh, wow.
Until 2012. I'm still not being given any shares in this thing. Like, I'm just still, you know. And then I started taking a back seat without mentioning to anybody what's up, thinking people will just, you know, be mindful.
Yeah. So you slowly started backing away from it.
Yes, because my teaching job actually literally, because like 2010, there was a World Cup in South Africa. TEARGAS was just needed every corner of everywhere where there's something happening.
Oh, wow.
And it's not even like we made that much money. You know, we were still, you know, being introduced in the market, and we probably took like freaking less fees than we were worth at the time, you understand? But because you are still new in the industry, like, you know, to have like 10,000 rand, like now, you know, when you never had 5 rand in your pocket last year, that's something, you understand? So, I mean, I found myself in a predicament where I had to leave teaching now and focus on this thing. But that was like 2010, beginning of 2010, end of 2010, when I called it quits on the teaching side of things. I remember my staff never even wanted to let me go. Like, I had the principal asking me, please not to go, you know, because I'm a very nice people like that. I now was the guy with nothing now.
Right. So, okay, so I want to delve into, obviously, you ended up having to quit your job so that you can kind of push certain things forward. How did the industry treat you all individually after TEARGAS disbanded? Like, how did that work? Because obviously later on, the person that most of the world saw was catapulted ahead of everybody else was KO. Okay, he got signed to Sony, if I'm not mistaken. So what is it that happened that had him be put in front of the other 2 members? And also, I'd like to know, where are you guys now in terms of friendship, in terms of communication? Where are you as individuals? Are you communicating? You know, have you been able to reconcile any misunderstandings or any, you know, grudges maybe some people might have been holding? Because obviously there was clearly a lot of misunderstanding. There was clearly difference in priorities, I would say, you know, given that you had the responsibility of having a child, which means you had to put your family first and think of alternative ways to make money. And I also want to touch on the fact that because you were still assisting with the cash money side of it, is it the cash side
cash
of it.
time, yeah.
Cash time, apology. Cash time side of it, but you're not getting anything in return. Do you think the other members saw that, well, he's got a job, he doesn't deserve to get some money from this? But if that's the case, what does that say about, do you feel maybe there was a lack of education of what it meant for, if someone puts something into a project, they actually deserve to have dividends from it when money is being made?
I mentioned this earlier, you know, the fact that in 2010, I now had no job anymore, you know, and I had been investing my time, and I've been investing all my energies into this cash time situation. So I feel that at the time when I don't have a job, somebody needs to start thinking to say that, but now this guy doesn't have anything and he's been working here. How about we put him in so that we can move in unison, so that we can be able to say, this is a new chapter as a group. Let's move on now and have this other thing now on the side where we are all benefiting from it. And then that's when I came up with the Afribiz charts.
Right.
Because remember, when I started this interview, when we started, I told you that my thing is to look out for yourself first. So I saw that there was nothing happening in terms of, you know, the change of directors and maybe me being included in the whole thing. I felt that, you know, because that is not happening, how about I look for something? Like I did quite a number of things. You know, I was involved with a guy, and we did like children's books, and that was actually going quite well. But it was just too many things to handle at the time for me. I had too much pressure, but I had so much things going. And that's when the idea of the charts came about, when the African music was starting to take such heights. And it was crazier than what you are seeing right now. And that was something that I saw a gap at, and I felt that if I could be able to occupy this space, I'll own this space.
Right.
And I owned that space.
You did.
I had Channel O, I had MTV Base doing interviews with them. I had like all the, like, I'm not even gonna speak of just like satellite broadcasters, which I did, but it was really taking off. It was really taking off, and but it wasn't easy also because it needed a lot of financial sustainability. So it was really not that easy to be able to handle. And it ended up, you know, in a place where I could not be able to handle it anymore, because I you know, it's something also that, because it's an indicator of, you know, the best of the best musicians in Africa. It really needs, you know, to stand out, and it really, you know, it can't just, you know, be sort of just, you know, something that is out there that is good, but it has to be magnificent. Right. And for it to be that way, you really, really need a lot of finances to keep it going, because there's also other people doing a lot of other things. And as you know, people never want to do things because there's a vision. They want to get paid. So it was very tough. It was very tough to keep it going and thriving at the time. And I canned it and I put it on hold until now. It still will happen. But
I'm glad you said that, because I was about to ask you to say, are you looking to revive it? Because obviously Afribiz Entertainment was derived from the Afribiz charts, being the one that had the name first, and then you had Afribiz Entertainment. So when are you looking to revive? Because I feel this is the time to have a charts countdown for Africa by Africa.
Yeah, but I just want to mention, you know, the fact that part of the you know, all the bad that happened within the group with TEARGAS, Afribiz brought some of that. You know, it just came, and you know, there was so much negative that was just brought by Afribiz charts.
Really?
You know, yeah.
Wow. Oh, please.
Yeah.
Give me some details, because I'm very curious.
Like it's beyond my understanding. Where if you are a group, I feel that you have to support each other. Like, I don't care what you are doing. I don't care if you're starting a small little, I don't know, maybe a shaving cream that you want to put out there, and endorse, and you want me to endorse it, I'm not gonna ask twice. You my team, you understand? I'm not gonna ask which company is manufacturing this. I'm just gonna look at the packaging, and if everything is legit and you part of the team and you've been a friend to me, I'm not gonna second guess anything that you do. I'm just gonna put my name behind it and push that. But when Afribiz came, only my E was supporting me.
Oh wow! And that's your brother, you know.
And this is not me, you know, bad mouthing KO in any way. KO is still a brother to me. He's still a brother to me. However people see things, you know, we don't talk, but we've met over the December holidays. We met maybe like once or twice, even though we didn't talk, but we did, you know, come into close proximity and we said some words, and then it was not really much that we spoke about, but you know, he's my brother still. But you know, I feel like Afribiz Charles, man, was not nice to him, man. It wasn't doing him service. It was a disservice to him in a way, because after about a year, because you know, sometimes when you're not sure about something, is a friend of mine supportive or are they not supportive? You know, you don't want to confront it so early. You know, I literally let
situation.
I let Dibanj speak about it on his Twitter. I let Tiwa Savage speak about it all year. Like this was 2011 when Afribiz Charts kicked off in a big way, in a way that I didn't even understand.
You didn't expect it.
I had freaking Two-Face, I had P Squared, I even did interviews with P Squared. Like, you know, it was just opening up so many doors for me, the Afribiz Charts, which I was not even aiming for. It's just something that was happening at the time. But I didn't think that at the end of 2011, I would be in a situation where I would have to now confront KO and ask him why he hasn't played a part. That whole year of 2011, when the charts kicked off, I actually let him, you know, do whatever that he was doing, and I didn't even ask about it until. But like, I kept having a feeling like, but why is this side of the equation not balancing? But you know, when I finally confronted him, I got the shocking answer, the most shocking answer ever.
What was it?
He's like, I never saw the.
Oh, stop it.
I was like, you know what? That's
he
it.
never noticed.
I was like, you know what? That is it.
Wait,
like, I'm not gonna force myself in a group. I'm not gonna force myself to be within a collective where if somebody does something, it doesn't sit nice with someone, or I don't know. You understand? For me, and now how it all went out to the public, it was like Ntukza didn't tweet KO's song.
Wow.
That's the reason for the breakup, and that's the reason for KO feeling the way that he felt towards me at the time, that he wasn't feeling like, you know, it wasn't like really so nice between us anymore. And it was all because he put a song out. I didn't retweet his song. How would I not retweet your song, bro? You didn't retweet my charts, bro, the whole freaking year. Now you're gonna cry foul over me not tweeting your song.
Wow.
Or it might have been vice versa, that that he didn't, or rather I didn't tweet his song, or he didn't tweet my songs. The whole thing was because of the charts, and when I asked him a year later, that's when everything got out on some. You know what?
I mean, a question that I have for you is, what do you think is really the underlying issue? And whatever it is, do you think you guys can eventually come to a place where you can have a real kumbaya moment and confront whatever it is once and for all, right? In hopes that maybe, because at the end of the day, in the Western market, there's a lot of groups that have fallen out really badly, and they've managed to put their differences aside and been able to do one more reunion, you know, for old time's sake, for the sake of the old fans. Do you think there is something like that in the horizon? Because, you know, they say never for you guys if you were to reconcile some things with KO.
You know, some situations are not the same. Situations, you know, with groups or with people that work together, they're not the same. Like where there's you know, conflict that arises, there's always differences in those case studies. Those are different case studies. My case study with TEARGAS,
it's a tough one.
my case study with TEARGAS is a very tough bone to chew, you know. It's very tough. Like, I mean, KO called me to a video. I think this must have been like around 3 years ago, when he put out a song with AKA, and then he called me, gave me a call, and that was like a very long time since we had spoke when he called, and he was asking me to be part of this music video, and this was just gonna be a whole thing, twist to the whole plot of TEARGAS, where people would see me at the end of the video, showing up with the 3 guys just standing at the end of the video.
Right.
That's the time when we were supposed to iron things out, sort things out, speak things out. But I think those days, I think we met about 3 or 4 days after that video. And we even exchanged beats. We exchanged beats to say that, yeah, let's see what we can do here. But then after that, you know, you actually see things on social media and people are mentioning different things from what is being done and what is being mentioned, you know, where no one sees. And then I see things on social media and I'm just like, but like, what is all this?
Oh, wow.
And I feel like, you know, our thing was so much affected also just by the third party. The third party being social media, the third party being how we think also as individuals in the group, you know, that if somebody gives me props and say that, yeah, this is good, and you know, you even when somebody says something bad about, you know, the member, just to, you know, just to glorify you, but they're stepping on a toe of someone. No, you cannot entertain such. You understand?
Right,
so that started happening, and it started becoming more of a tradition. And I was just, you know, seeing social media and just looking at things happen the way that they did, such that the biggest blow actually in the whole saga of Cash Time, that's when they had actually changed the name from Cash Time to Cash Time Live.
All right.
Where KO was to release his first hit song, Kara Kara, and his first album.
Right.
So basically what had happened at the time was that I never knew about Cash Time Live. You know, that was after we finished recording our first. I'm sorry to be going back again.
No,
we finished our last album, and you know, and then there was this situation where I wake up this one morning. You know, Twitter was so popular those days. I used to. These days, I don't tweet like I used to.
Of today.
I don't even tweet like I used to. Those days, you wake up in the morning, first thing,
Twitter.
I'm trending.
Wow.
I'm trending. Okay. What am I trending about?
Right.
It was the day of the elections that day. I think it was either the local elections, either way. It was the elections in the country, and they had played a mockery, or I don't know what figure of speech that would be, a parody or whatever, where they played on the election idea, the campaign of the elections, and the ballot paper. They put members of Cash Time Live as if they were on the ballot paper. They put, I think, about maybe 6 or 7 members there. Some of the members I didn't even know that were members at the time. I just saw pictures and they said, this is who to vote for. You know how you just campaigning on the music side of things and it's just a playful thing with elections. And I trended because of that. That I'm not part of.
You're not part of it. You're not part of it. So, okay. So listen, what I want to do is, it's quite interesting. So I want to ask real quick before there's another line of questions that I'll have for you before we wrap up. But like, what I want to know is, Kayo obviously asking you to be part of the to show up at the end of the music video with AKA.
It was a business thing. I feel it was a business thing,
and it was just a way to get more traction. Do you think it was a way to get more traction?
For me, today, when in retrospect, that's what it was. I'm sorry to say that. Yeah, it was clout.
Right, and there was no real intentions to try and see if
there was no real intentions, because after I had done the video, I told you we met up maybe for meetings as a group behind closed curtains. We met maybe like four times, maybe three times, maybe four times. I can't remember, but within the second day of us meeting, there was already T-shirts being mentioned, that we need to have T-shirts. No, you don't do that. You need to start things off. You know, that's why I think now it was business.
Wow.
You are watching TGZ TV.